All right, what you see on the screen and what I handed out to you, we're going to go over all of it in just a minute, okay? This is the test. All right. Now, you may have thought the test was fair. You may have thought it was unfair. Doesn't really matter, I guess, now anyway. One thing I should tell you, this is not related to the test. Some of you missed on Friday when I was gone. That's your own business. That said, if you haven't done so lately, you may want to take a look at the number of days that you've been absent. Because 1 or 2 of you are at 6. So if you're at 6 and you miss again, an attempt is going to be made to kick you out. Okay?
I was here Friday.
You what?
I was here Friday. Evidence absent.
Who was absent?
I was here, but they have me as absent.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, like I said, did you sign the piece of paper? Because your name wasn't on it.
No, possibly not.
Okay. And that's what I have to go by is what's on there. All right? Okay. So, again, you were supposed to create this 5-page fictional website. I'm not going to run through it. You know what it is. All right? Some of you spent 2 or 3 days going over what was in there. All right? So I'm just going to leave that as that. That said, then what I want to show you is this. This, for lack of better words, is kind of how I attack this. So I'm going to run through between today and tomorrow what I did to try to get this thing to work. Now, do you have to follow along? You do whatever you want to do. All right? I will tell you that right now what I'm looking at is, yeah, you're probably going to have a JavaScript final, and what it'll be will be to convert all these that are done in JavaScript to jQuery. Plus, I will also be grading the job that you did making the pages link, using your CSS, etc. All right? So that's why I said if you want to follow along, great. If you don't, that's great too. All right? You're going to do what you want to do, and that's fine. I have no problem with that. All right? So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm just going to follow my own steps in here. And again, the way I did it, I'm not saying it's the way you did it. I'm not even saying it's the way to do it. I'm telling you it's the way I did it. So as it says here, create a plan. The biggest problem that most people, and it's not just in IT, it's in many fields have, is they jump right into something and they haven't figured out ahead of time how they want to attack it. So I sat down for about 15 minutes and wrote this thing up. All right. So like I said, that's what I'm going to show you. So I'm just going to follow, as I mentioned, my own steps here. So the first thing I'm going to do is I just decided to call this thing the gym. Is that a good name? It's the name that I used. Well, I've already got it there, so I want to move that anyway. All right. So I want to come in here and I'm creating a new folder that I'm literally just calling the gym. All right. That should be pretty obvious. And right now, as you can see, it's empty. So like I said, I'm going to fill it up this way. On Friday of this week, you're going to be doing your course evaluation. If you think doing things like this is a waste of time, then when you do your course evaluation, you write that down. That's your right. All right. If there's something about the course you really disliked, you write that down. Whatever it happens to be, whether it's the instructor, whether it's the instructor's methods, whether it's the book, whatever, whether it's all of them. So I've got my folder called the gym. As we've typically done, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to add my, try at least. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to add my JS folder. Then I'm going to add my CSS folder, and then I'm going to add an IMG folder for my images. I don't think there's anything surprising about that. Nothing big about it one way or the other. All right. Then the way that I set it up was under images, my IMG folder, I created a folder there that was called main to handle my main page. And under the main, I created a folder that I called resized. If those don't make sense, hopefully they will in a couple minutes. All right. Then I did basically the same thing under about. So in other words, I came in here and created another folder called about, and under that about folder, I created another folder again called resized. All right. And lastly, under images, I made one more folder that I called FAQ. Now, hopefully it makes sense to all of you that really the only thing I need in that FAQ folder is that plus sign and the minus sign. That's what's going to go in there. In my about page, I'm going to have my thumbnail images and my original images. In my main, I'm going to have in my original images. Does all that make sense? Yes? Okay. All right. Then create, refine an HTML template file with header, nav, main, section, aside, and footer sections. You could have done this in umpteen different ways. If you have been working with Atom the entire semester, all right, you could just have gone in and done your exclamation point and hit the tab key to get started. All right. Just to show you another way of doing it, not necessarily the best way, but another way of doing it. You may or may not have ever heard of this before, but what I did was I went out to something that is referred to as HTML5 Boilerplate, and I downloaded it. Now, I've got it in there a bunch of times, but that's no big thing. So, show it my folder. There it is in downloads. And I unzipped it. So here it is. It's in here someplace. I'll find it. There it is. And the only file I wanted from there was the index.html file. That was it. So I grabbed that. I'm going to copy it. And I'm going to, I don't need this anymore. So I'm just going to go and paste it right into my folder that's called the gym. All right, so I did that. Now I'm opening it up with Notepad, and you can see in here, this is set up if you don't know it. So where it's got class equal Node.js, if for some reason the user had turned JavaScript off, you could give them a warning message there. I don't need it. But I am going to change my language. I'm going to change that over to English. There's my head. All of this stuff right here. The title, I'm just going to call this The Gym, and this is going to be my home page. This stuff that's in here with the manifest and whatever, I'm not even going to touch that. All right. Now it said here, and I probably should have had you do this, place some kind of a favicon there, but I'm not going to worry about that for right now. All right. We are going to look at this in just a minute, linking these style sheets in. We'll come back to that in just a minute. All right. And then we've got our body. Here is a check to see if you're using IE in a version that's less than 9. You can keep that in there if you want. I'm not going to worry about it. So if you notice here, this is where we put our site content. You know all this stuff already. There's no big thing there. Now, the reason I brought this up is you may see this kind of thing if you ever go to work for a company and they have got a built-in template, or they've got some stuff already set up for you. This thing that's in here right now, in line 19, this is Modernizer. What it does is it'll go through, and if it finds that you've got an older version of a browser, it'll try to take anything that you put that was newer and make it compatible with that. All right? I don't want that either. I do want my jQuery, and again, it is recommended that when you do the jQuery, you keep both the integrity thing and you keep that cross origin in there. You don't have to do it, but the recommendation is that you do it. All right? Now, look on the screen, please. This line right here, that line will go out and it will check, and it will say, if you have jQuery loaded on your own machine, use that one. And if you don't, use it from a CDN. Does that make sense? All right. And the reason for that you may want to keep something like that in there is if you do download jQuery, all right, it'll attempt to use that. All right. But if you are not connected to the internet, yours will still work. So, but I don't care. So I'm getting rid of that. I'm going to get rid of the plugins. All right. I'll keep for now this JS main, but I'm going to change that around. And I don't care about Google Analytics. So I'm going to get rid of that. Now, you might say, that's fine. Mine was better. Why did you even do all that stuff? Just to show you the stuff that exists out there. That's all. All right? Because, again, if you go to work for a company, it is not beyond the realm of possibility that that company could have a template that was set up with a lot of this stuff in it. All right? I'm not saying it will or will not happen. I'm saying it could happen. All right? So now I'm going to go up here where it says to add my content. And I'm just going to start by putting in a header. And under the header, I'm just going to put an H1 in there that says the gym. That's it. Underneath that, I'm going to put in a Navbar. All right, I'll worry about filling that in just a second. We'll fill it in. All right, under that, I'm going to put in a main. Oops. Under the main, I'm going to put in a section. And I'm going to put in an aside. Now, if I want to, just to make sure all that stuff's working and whatever, I can come in, and in my main here, I just add an H1 that says main. You don't have to do that. All right. And in the same way, I can add one in my section that says section. And I can add one in my aside that says aside. All right. Now I want to end my main section, and I want to put in a footer. And in there, I'm just going to put in an H1 that says footer. Now, you can probably guess that if I save this and run it, okay, it looks pretty crummy right now. All right, that's pretty much to be expected. And I'm going to make other changes too, and it's going to look even worse in just a couple minutes. All right, but the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go back here, and in my nav section, I want to set that up. Our second page was about, I believe.
did it Friday.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it. All right, so I've got that in there. Two more things I want to do. The first is I want to go out, and I gave you the link to it on the test page, but I want to go out to, or maybe it wasn't on, I'm sorry, it wasn't on the test page. I've got a link here where I'm going to go out to this reset file. You didn't have to do this. You weren't asked to, all right, but I did. And this is a reset file that basically will turn off just about anything that any browser has turned on. Again, you didn't have to do this. I did do this. All right. And I'm going to just save this in my CSS folder, and I'm going to call it reset.css. All right. Then instead of normalize, I'm going to call this reset. All right, and I just call mine style. You can call it anything you want. It doesn't really matter, but it should end with CSS. All right, so in that folder, in that CSS folder, I now have my reset. I'm just going to go in and add a new text document that will be style.css. All right. All right, so now if I come in here and I run this, it's going to look really bad. All right, that's it right now. Okay. And, well, it looks like I put I think that, I don't know if that's the Q or I put a comma or period there, but I'll check. Okay, now none of those pages will work right now, but I do have everything that you were asked to put in there. I think that makes sense. All right, so going back to this plan of attack thing, all right, I created the plan, I set up the directory structure, I created and refined my HTML stuff, I went to the boilerplate, I added a header, I added the links to everything in the nav section, I added a main with an H1, a section and an aside with an H1, a footer with an H1. I went out to meyerweb.com and I copied in the reset file, put that in, changed the name. Okay. Now I want to just come in and copy my index.html to my other files. And as you know, you can do that in a bunch of different ways. I'm just going to do it like this. It may not be the best way, but it's the way I'm going to do it. Oops, I'll do that. So there's about, there is FAQ, there is BMI, and there is contact. So the only thing I want to change on these right now is just in the title here. So this is about, this is FAQ, contact, BMI, and I think that's all of them. There's index. So now I want to just check and make sure that they all go from page to page. So I'm at home, I'm at about, I'm at FAQ, I'm at BMI, and I'm at contact. Good. So all that stuff works. All right. Again, so far, yeah, we've done all this stuff weeks ago. I get it. So again, what I'm showing you is how I did it. All right. So step 4, I went out to Simple Image Resizer, and I grabbed all those images that I had, and I resized them. All right. There's that. And now what I had given you, for the JSHOT3 folder, there it is, was I had given you some about page stuff. All right. I had given you that BMI text. I had given you some contact page text. The second day I sent you those two, the plus and the minus sign, and the main page. All right. So I'm going to copy everything that's there on that main page, come back to my image file, go over to main, paste that in. All right. Go over to my about page. Again, grab all of it. Come over to my about page here. And paste that in. Finally, go over to my FAQ page. Grab those two things. And paste those in. All right. Now, I don't want to waste my time. I don't want to waste your time, so I'll just grab one of these. So in other words, I'm going to go over to main here, and you see these 5 images that are right there. All right. So I'm going to go over to my Simple Image Resizer, and instead of percentages, I'm going to select dimensions here. And I'm going to say I want it to be 1200 by 800. Select my image. And resize it. It's not going to. It still looks grainy, but it looks better. Now, if I click download, there it is. So if I right mouse click and I choose Save Image As, all right. Now I'm going to end up putting it in my main resized. It changes the name. Instead of being num01.jpg, it's now num01 underscore 1200x800 JPEG. Hopefully you get the idea. I'm not going to go through the rest of them, but I did do it on a copy that I made. So I went through all those and resized them accordingly. All right. Next, just so you had some kind of an idea of what to use, all right, I wanted you, I went and I said, well, you know what, one of the last ones that we did for a form was that Packer thing, that Packer backer. So I said, you know what, I'm just going to grab that so I have a start. What's that going to mean? Well, my CSS will probably make every page yellow with gold writing or gold with yellow writing, whatever it is, green and gold. All right? But that's fine. Okay? So I'll show you that later, but that's fine. And the next thing I told you, and again, if you thought this was unfair, I'm sorry. Not a person in here asked. But if you go in here and you go out to Muroc.com, and in Muroc.com you look, you might have to go up a dot or two in here, or 3 or 4. There's our book. So I click on our book here and go down, and it says free downloads. One of the things that you can download is all the applications in the book. So I chose zip, you may have to register. I've never gotten an email from them unless they do an upgrade. That's it. So you may have to register by giving them your name and stuff. I don't know. So I've got this. There it is. I'm going to copy that, go back to my home page. I just made a new folder here that I dropped in and called MISC for miscellaneous. All right. Then I came in and said, okay, just paste that folder in and then unzip it. All right, and what I want out of there are the book apps for chapter 6. I want the FAQ. And for chapter 7, I wanted both those. Now, looking at this, I can tell I will need facts.js, I will need swap.js, and I will need slideshow.js. So I grab both those right away. There's the FAQ one. There's the slideshow. And there's the swap. Now, you're all smart people. You all should realize that when I go into these, I'm going to have to use those names. In other words, all right, the FAQ one, okay, minus, and there might be a plus in there, and there's something for FAQ. So in other words, I'm going to have to use their same names. All right. So what I did was I said, you know what? For each one of these that I'm going to need, all right, for each one of these that I'm going to need, I'm going to come in here and I'm also going to look at, and the first one I think we were supposed to do was the slideshow. So I'm going to look at the index file that's in here. All right, and I want to see the stuff that I'm going to need. Well, that's just generic stuff. I won't need anything in there. I've already got an H1. All right, I've got all this stuff. So it looks like what I'm going to need in here is that. Does that make sense? All right, so I'm going to grab that, and I'm going to bring up my index.html. right? And coming in here, I'm just going to put it right in main. All right. So looking through here, I mean, I can tell some stuff's going to have to change. First of all, I believe I have got 5 images in there, not 4. So now that's 5. And these are all, the paths are wrong, the JPEGs are wrong, the titles are wrong. All right. So first thing I want to do is try to fix up those titles. And I know that the first one was man 1 lifting weights. The second one was woman 1 lifting weights. The third one was just weights. The fourth one is man 2 lifting weights. And the fifth one is woman 2 lifting weights. All right, so I've got all that. Here, this man 1 lifting weights. I'll also want to put it here. And I don't want that to say catch and release. I'll just do the same thing. Man 1 lifting weights. All right. So I've got that. So now I've got to come in here and I've got to fix all of these paths and change the names. And the only one that I actually changed in here that I made the way I want it to look was in this resized. I'll have to change the rest. I'll do that during the break. So I want it to go to image main resized. I spelled main wrong. I must have. Right. Not spelled correctly. So I'm going to have to change all of these, which I will do, like I said, during the break. Well, it doesn't seem to like that, but let's check. Should be showing. Well, not sure right now why it's not showing. I worked on it a little bit earlier. It's not very pretty, but I'll show you the earlier one that I worked on. Did exactly the same thing I just did, or at least I thought I did. And you'll notice that it goes through. So without me having to add anything to it, and granted, I put no CSS in here. All right, but I've got a working slideshow based on what I've shown you. All right. It is 8:58. Let's come back at 9:15, please.